Hello, our topic for today is going to be total rewards management, which sounds kind of strange. Exactly what is total rewards management? It's kind of the newfangled way, if you will, of talking about compensation and benefits. Think about it. Economists used to call this personnel economics, which sounds somewhat terrifying. And then they said comp and benefits. And then now the whole buzzword, if you will, is total rewards management. That'll be the focus of the day. However, the thing that prevails when you look at total rewards management is show me the money. So what I would encourage you to do is go to YouTube and type in show me the money, and I'd imagine that a lot of you have seen that particular video snippet. And if you feel like dancing to it, then you can dance to it as well. So let's begin to dive into exactly what total rewards management is and what it's not. So this is one definition, but not the complete definition. The word I want you to really focus on in this definition, after you give yourself a couple minutes to take a look at it, the word you really need to focus on is appreciation. So that's a key word. So really appreciation. And if you think about it, is total reward includes all types of reward, non-financial and financial. So it's a way of showing appreciation. It's also a way of motivating. It's also a way of incentivizing. So when you think about total rewards management, it's more than the money, but the money matters as well. So many different companies have adopted this total rewards philosophy, and each one of them have their own particular definition. So Palmetto Health, they're a healthcare system in the state of California. They have total rewards. Monsanto, they have total rewards. Mass Mutual, which is an insurance company, they have total rewards. So a number of different organizations that are not-for-profit and for-profit, multinational to local, have a total rewards management approach. What I would encourage you to do is take a look at your particular organization or an organization that you worked with in the past, or maybe an organization that you'd love to work for, like Google as an example, and see, do they call what they're doing comp and benefits? Do they call it personnel economics? Probably not. Do they call it total rewards management? Take a look at it. It'll give you some insight into the philosophy as the way they look at rewards, recognition, and pay and benefits. So let's look at the rationale. So remember, I said look for the words appreciation. So if we look here, do meaningful jobs for which they are shown appreciation. So that's both monetary and non-monetary. Now you can argue, and I would agree with you 100%, if you get paid on a monthly basis, that's not showing appreciation. That is, you're legally entitled to be paid, and it's an economic transaction. But you have to go above and beyond simply just this economic transaction. So what type of prerequisites do you have? What type of perks do you offer? And we're going to begin to dive into a little bit more detail as to what are the elements of a total reward strategy. By looking at this total rewards framework. So this is one that comes from the World at Work. So some of you might be familiar with SHRM, which is Society for Human Resources Management. World at Work is another organization for compensation and benefits professionals. And it's similar to SHRM, but it's solely focused on total rewards management. So let's look at their model. So if you note, it has total reward strategy. And the key thing is you want to make sure that your total reward strategy is aligned with the vision, the mission, the values, and the strategic priorities of your organization. And then you can see all those elements that are there. Now the compensation, no surprise. Benefits, no surprise. Work life, probably no surprise. What about performance and recognition? We tend not to think of that as being part of comp and benefits or total rewards, but it is. It's also part of organizational development, it's part of training, and just good management. Keep going. Developmental and career opportunities. So you typically would think is, wait a minute, doesn't that belong to career development, or doesn't that belong to OD&T? It does, but it's also part of total rewards management. Because if you move up the ladder, that's a reward, that's recognition, that has some psychological advantages as well as some financial advantages. Then you want to look at, why do you have a total reward strategy? 3 reasons. So look at that arrow. To attract top talent, to motivate top talent, and to retain top talent. Those are the three driving forces, and you have two types of outcomes. Outcomes at the level of the individual employee, and then outcomes with regard to the business unit. Could be a department, could be a division, could be a strategic business unit, or it could be a company overall. So that is the World at Work's model of total rewards. Let's look at another one. TOWERSPERRIN is a HR consulting firm, and consulting firms always have to come up with their model, so their model's a bit different. So if you note, pay, benefits, not surprising, learning and development, very similar to the World at Work. Work environment, dissimilar to the World at Work. And what they do is if you look at those axes, so if you look at the top, you have transactional, so biweekly paycheck, or online benefit enrollments. Those are transactions, all the way to those things that are relational. So sitting down with your particular manager and supervisor and setting goals, and then getting feedback about those goals and getting some recognition about that, that's relational, not transactional. And then if you go and look on the individual side, on the other side, you have the communal as well. So I like this model because it shows you the four quadrants, but it also emphasizes is that total rewards is about the individual, but it's also about the communal. So it's about groups as well, the whole workforce population. That's another model for you to take a look at. And yet another one. So the first model, the World at Work, was from the professional association, similar to SHRM. The second one was from an HR consulting firm, TOWERSPERRIN, and the third one is from a global multinational, so the Nestle company. So this is their total rewards approach. What I want you to really take a look at is that compensation philosophy. So a well-designed total reward strategy should have a written compensation philosophy. So let me spend a couple moments just to read this through very slowly because it's important. To establish the company's salary and remuneration practices. So they use kind of UK English, and UK English remuneration, they say that instead of compensation, based on competitive positioning. So when you hear the term competitive positioning, that's telling you about a total reward strategy. Think about competitive advantage. At the 50th to the top of the 25th or the third quartile. So there they're really talking about base salary. They may also be talking about total cash compensation. That's how they're defining competitiveness. Of community salary practices. So again, that's the labor market. With the comparable companies in order to attract, retain, and motivate. And you've seen those three before. So in the World at Work model, remember the drivers were attract, motivate, and retain, and yet you see it again. So this is another model that comes from an organization. So now let's pull back from total reward strategy and begin to look at the two basic elements of total comp. You have direct compensation and you have indirect compensation. On the direct side, you have base pay. Think W-2 income, think your salary. You also have incentives. So they could be bonuses, they're discretionary. So they're typically discretionary based upon performance. So performance is measured by the individual, you. Performance is measured by the group or team and the organization. So that's direct compensation. That's money you can actually spend, if you will. You also have indirect compensation. So you can't actually spend that, but it's a benefit. So pay for time not worked. PTO time, vacation time, paid sick leave. So those are examples of you're being paid for not working as a benefit. You have security plans, so retirement or pensions, health insurance, disability insurance. You also have other plans, so that could be dental insurance and life insurance, and employee services, wellness programs, walking programs, employee assistance programs. So as an HR professional, you want to make sure is that you're knowledgeable about direct compensation and indirect compensation. And in the U.S., let's assume somebody makes $100,000 a year, direct compensation, base salary, The total cost to the organization for indirect compensation could be between 20 and 30% of base, which means if I'm paid $100,000 in base, if I add up all those benefits under indirect compensation, that could be yet another $20,000 to $30,000. And that's important to keep in mind if you are going on the job market, because you might see a job is advertised for $100,000. So then you go in and you say, you know what, I'm going to try to get $110,000, $10,000 more than they offer. But from the organization's perspective, they've added in benefits. So while the advertisement says $100,000, the company knows is $100,000 plus another $20,000 for the indirect compensation. So if you come in and say, I want 110, now you've bumped it up to 130. So it's very important to think about that even when you're negotiating. So to sum up, what we focused on for this particular module is total rewards. And total rewards really looks like total compensation. It looks like personnel economics. But the key thing to take away, it's about show me the money, but it's more than the money.